Welcome everyone to another video. I am very excited about this one. I say it over and over to anyone who will listen, but I do this show because it affords me the opportunity to talk to people I otherwise would never have a chance to. Today is one of those days. And if you want to be as excited as I am right now, head over to epicrollbjj.com and use the coupon code podcast15. And when your order comes in the mail, you'll be as happy as a podcast host getting to talk to one of the best grapplers in the world. Epic Roll has everything you need for jiu-jitsu, and it's actually made for jiu-jitsu by grapplers. Gis, shorts, rash guards, hoodies, joggers, hats, all the things you need to look like someone who is about to win Adcc, even if that might not be in the cards for you. Give Epic Roll a follow on the gram at epicrollbjj and be sure to tag them when new gear day comes and you finally get to put on your new stuff. epicrollbjj.com, coupon code podcast15. Now, my guest today is actually making his second stop on the show. He is an Adcc absolute bronze medalist, and his run at the last Adcc is one of the most celebrated runs in the tournament's history. His new Straight Armlock Anthology is available now on BJJ Fanatics. Please welcome to the show, Lachlan Giles. Thank you so much again for coming back on the show. I have a lot of things I want to ask you, so I would do my best not to tie up the whole afternoon for you, maybe a half hour if that's okay.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Well, first things first, welcome to the Dad's Grapplers Club. Walter was born in July, correct?
That's right, July 19. Yeah, little Walter. He's growing up fast already, so yeah, it's been good.
So our kids are close. I have a 2-year-old, and then my son was born in June. So there may come a time when I don't want to intimidate you, but we might have to coach against each other at a 20 years from now ADCC or something. So keep putting out instructional so I have stuff to teach my kid how to use against yours. How has it been balancing the life of the dad grappler and just the dad?
It's been okay. Like, it's been more busy, but doable. He sleeps obviously worse for Liv than it is for me, but he's starting to sleep okay most of the time, and he wakes up a little earlier than I would like to wake up, but and once he's up, we're all up. So that's been okay, but I'm still getting to train. We do our 10 a.m. pro sessions, and for the most of the time I get to train during them. Occasionally he usually actually sleeps at that time, so we bring him to the gym and put him in the corner, and he usually sleeps through it, but occasionally he'll wake up, and either myself or Liv will have to look after him. So yeah, but overall, I mean, it hasn't affected my training too much. Probably just like, the little things, like, if I'm trying to, edit some videos for an instructional or something, and it's just like, if I'm looking after him, you can't do two things at once. It's like you have to be holding him. But yeah, otherwise it's pretty good. It's obviously really good.
I've gotten pretty good at holding with one arm and then trying to do edits to videos with my mouse with the other arm, and it takes 4 to 5 times as long, and the quality comes out being not so great. So I feel your pain there, but at least he's there in the mat. Maybe he's learning. I don't know how much the science of learning in the background is while you're asleep, but maybe he's picking something up from you.
I'm hoping he can bolo before he can walk, but
the motion of crawling and then rolling over onto the back, it might serve well for the bolo.
Yeah, why not?
You have the Straight Armlock Anthology on top of having a new baby and on top of training. So I guess my question is, are you like a crazy person for taking on all these projects all at once? And how do you A, manage it, and B, what was the inspiration for this new anthology?
I've always kind of been the kind of person that will like get very fixated on a particular thing. So I'm kind of lucky that thing's been jiu-jitsu, and I can probably spend like 95% of my time either training or thinking about training or like editing something to do with jiu-jitsu. Like, I can spend a long time on a particular topic without, especially if I find it interesting, and without getting necessarily bored or distracted. So I think I'm pretty good at that.
That's not a bad thing to be that kind of crazy person. I would count myself crazy person that way as well. So
Yeah, I think it's well, I think it's a good quality overall. I mean, I'm not like a jack of all trades sort of thing. Like there's plenty of areas, or most areas of not like I'm terrible with anything mechanical. I probably can't even change my car tire if it went flat. I actually don't. I could probably try, but I don't really know what I'm doing if I had to do that. But jiu-jitsu, I've managed to really focus on. Yeah, so I mean, obviously with Walt, that keeps me more busy, but I've got Liv helping me out as well. So Liv certainly does more than her fair share of looking after Walt, which gives me a bit of time to do that stuff. And then inspiration for the Armlock Anthology. Well, I mean, it was, I suppose, like when you develop a game attacking the legs, then people start taking their legs quite far away from you, which usually means they start leading with their upper body to try to kind of, they engage you more with their hands and with their feet back. And then you have to have good strategies to overcome that and deal with that. And the arm lock, and especially like one particular type of arm lock, which we call the Choi bar, where you kind of spin over the top, kind of similar to like a K-guard entry, but on the arm, and that goes into the arm bar. That style of entry fits well with my game. And of course, it's like the arm bar is a fundamental movement. So like a fundamental skill to develop. So I just, I thought it would be good to delve deep into that topic. I suppose one thing that's a big consideration for me is actually whenever I've done an instructional, a lot of the time, because it takes me usually months and months to film and edit, and then like film my rolling footage and analyze that, and then re-edit or re-add extra things in that I feel like I'm missing. And I actually feel like that process itself is almost the best way for me to learn too. So actually, I usually end up doing things differently from when I started filming to the end, and I'll edit and change it to kind of reflect what I think the best way is. A good example was the leg lock anthology. Like I finished shooting that. I think I finished shooting that like 2 months before ADCC. So I'd spent like 3 months just focusing on heel hooks and so on. And then by the time ADCC came around, I was like so sharp at that game. And I really had a good understanding, like by teaching it and then like really analyzing my rolling footage and so on. I feel like I got so much better at actually doing that game, which meant kind of primed me for ADCC and obviously made my leg locks a lot better than just the process of it. So I feel like kind of the same thing with the armbar. It's a move that on the surface, everyone goes, oh yeah, I know how to do an armbar. That's why I wasn't sure if it would sell that well as a topic, because a lot of people probably look at that and they're like, oh yeah, I know what the armbar is. I don't need that. But I think there's a lot of little things that you can do that make a big difference. So taking something that everyone knows and diving very deep into it, I think is really useful. So yeah, that's the inspiration for that and kind of the process I'll go through.
You almost read word for word what one of the questions I had written down that I was going to ask you about the Armbar Anthology is. I have always felt like there are so many details to the armbar that people sort of gloss over. And like you said, it's just, oh, armbar, I do an armbar, I have an armbar. And then when someone can really break down all of those details, did that play a part into the development of the anthology? Did you look at things where you could say, people don't pay attention to this or people miss out on this detail, and you built from that framework?
Essentially, yes. Like when I'm filming an instructional, I'm also teaching in class as well. So I get to see first off, like, when I teach it in class or when I've already filmed some of it, I get to, I'll be like, okay, these are the details I've taught. And then when I'm training, most of the adaptations I've made, I don't sit there like, there's little things I'll do with my armbar that I didn't sit down and go like, oh, they're reacting by grabbing their leg, therefore I'm going to do this to counter it. I kind of learned it implicitly, which is kind of, you just kind of, that problem's happened enough that you figured out a solution without even necessarily being aware of that. Once I've taught, like when I teach to a class and I or to on an instructional and I talk through the steps, then when I'm rolling after that, I often go like, oh, hang on, this is a bit different to what I had taught. And at least usually if it's something that's different to what I've taught, it's probably not something that's commonly known, anyway, because
right.
Like if I, I'm like, oh, actually, I'm actually doing this in this situation. And then I'll start having to think about it, why that's a good solution. And that's how I kind of progress. Then when I teach it next time, I'll teach it how I actually do it, not how I thought I did it. And that's kind of the process I'll go through. And obviously teaching it to a class as well, you get to see what, sometimes you teach a move and you say all these important details and then you watch people do it and you realize that they don't necessarily get the details that you're explaining, and you can kind of focus in on the more important things that people tend to miss and so on. So yeah, it's a real process, and it's a process of like, do it, roll, try it out, reevaluate and build upon that again. That's why I like to do my instructionals. I like to film them myself, because I can do it that way instead of just like, I personally feel like if I just showed up, and this was something I'd already gone through that same process on, if I just showed up at, and filmed over a day, I would miss a lot of things, because the ability to do iterations and improve and adapt seems to be a key element of that.
It's like a dynamic process. You're not just showing up with, this is my script of what I'm going to do. Yeah. You're constantly tweaking it through the process of the whole production.
Yeah, I think you'll find that with a lot of things. You look at a lot of people teach a move, and you like they say they do this, and then you watch them in competition and they don't do that. Right. And I'm the same. Like I'm always trying to look for those things and do my best to give you the thing that I actually do. And it can be hard to pick it up. I think watching competition footage is really valuable too, to see how things actually look, but it can be hard to know what details to look for unless you've got like the instructionals give a very good foundation for like how people react to certain scenarios. And then the live footage essentially just kind of reinforces what it always looks a bit messier when you've got someone resisting and trying to mix different counters together. So, yeah.
Well, I have sort of a two-part question. So the first part, as far as teaching, I think the way, just based on the stuff of yours that I've read, and obviously, being a fan and watching all of the things that you put out, you seem to teach in very different ways and understanding the ways that different people learn in different ways. So when you're teaching in person, you're teaching a class, do you go in with different preparations for how you want to teach a technique based on knowing your students, of how, student A might learn one way, student B might respond a different way? Does that inform the way you think about what you're teaching?
That's a hard one, because you got like, if you got a class with 30 people in, it's pretty hard to give a individualized approach to each. Like you've kind of to be honest, I think the class format is not the best way to, like, you're doing the best with what you've got, which is you've got 30 people in a room and you're trying to impart some sort of knowledge to them.
Right.
But you're not, like, each individual one might have a different area of that topic that they should be focusing on. So it is difficult to come up with a format that really does that. I mean,
touches on all those.
Yeah. So
touches on all those.
One way to do it is like, I mean, just like, even just like, let's say there's multiple things, but it could just be that within one move, there's a certain detail that person A knows or doesn't know, and then there's another detail that person B doesn't know, but both of them know pretty much everything else about the move. Then, one way to do it is just go through all the details of the technique, and
Right.
which ends up with a big long explanation. But the problem with that is, which is really good, but the problem is you've also got like a new student in the class who they haven't seen the move before. They only need they can probably only remember 3 major things. You don't want to give them 40 details, because they might focus on
Sure.
a couple of really not unimportant, but mildly important details. Whereas, like, if you're doing an armbar and you've never seen it before, like, making sure that the elbows pass the line of the hips is probably like one major
Right.
detail.
Right.
And curling your feet back, so that the curl instead of the pinch of the knees, for example, would be another one. So there's a couple of things that the beginner would really need to know, whereas someone more advanced is looking for like very tiny things. It's very hard to come up with a class structure that actually takes all those, like, that caters to everyone. That's why at our gym we have like levels to our classes. We have like, especially for the night classes, we have like an intro level, like your first few lessons, then fundamentals, which is like basically up to the first couple of stripes on white belt. Then we have an intermediate and advanced, which are kind of just usually aimed at blue belts, or late white belts can join in. But so that's how I try to get around that. And then probably more lately, I've been focusing reading a lot on skill acquisition, and some of the different ways that people learn. And I'm trying to implement that in class, it's really challenging, but it keeps it exciting. It makes the coaching process exciting. So really thinking about,
for sure,
what is at the end of this class, what do I want people to be able to do, and how can I actually make it so that they get the most out of that. And I think if I get this right, it's going to make a very, very big difference in how fast people are learning at the gym. So I already think I'm seeing some big improvements from kind of changing things up a bit.
Well, I appreciate that answer, and I also appreciate, I've always tried to put, anytime I've taught a class, as much thought as I could into what was going to happen in that class before I walked in the door. And I've also been to classes where it's very obvious that preparation wasn't done by who was teaching the class, and it shows. So as a person who likes to learn as much detail as possible in the right way, I appreciate that answer. But the second part of my question was going to be sort of tied to that, would be, when you're forming the anthology and you're thinking about the progression of how you're going to work through it, sort of the same question. Are you aware of different styles that people learn, and maybe you present technique in multiple times through a demonstration where you might focus on different details for different reasons? Or are you still mainly going based off of learned experience and how you've seen it applied?
I try to, I think some people, learn better. There's some people who are not great with like watching a technique and implementing it, but they can. I've certainly seen this a lot, where, like, I'll show a move and I'll say all these details, and then I walk around, you're walking around and you're looking at them try it, and you're like, man, you're not getting this at all. And then you'll see them enrolling, and they'll do the move really well. And just like, there's some people, I think, who they need to live train it and try to just do the move, and they'll figure out little angles and so on. And I feel like that's actually, to be honest, I think everyone should. I think once you've had some live practice at it, you then get a chance to fine tune anything that, you start coming up with good questions, like, oh, well, I was trying to armbar and I couldn't because of, this happened. And then you go, oh, actually this detail will help you there. That's probably the ideal way to do it. So you can't really do that in an instructional, because so I kind of view the instructionals as a resource that people should come back, like they're trying, you should be trying to do the move, and then you come back, and then when you watch it, it actually makes sense. Like, oh, I had that problem. Like they got out at that point, but actually if I, put my foot there next time, I'm going to think about that next time I'm rolling, and then I'll probably have a new question, and I can. So it's something that people should be going to and from. But you were more talking about like different learning styles. Yeah, I try to go through like the conceptual part first, and then the details second, and then the troubleshooting third. So there's kind of three different ways, and then within that there's kind of the instructionals usually then set out from different positions where the same themes might come up, so you can start to see it from a different perspective as well. So often I'll go through like how do I want someone thinking about the position. So like, what's my major aim here? What can my opponent do to get out? Like a big kind of an overview. Like what are my arms trying to do here? What are the different things my arms can do, my legs, that sort of stuff. Then I'll go into like, okay, these are a few linear sequences. Like, if we're trying to finish the armbar, we're trying to get the armbar from mount, like what are a few ways we can actually do that? And then I'll often go into troubleshooting. So like, these are some common problems you'll run into, and this is probably what will happen, and how you can try to deal with that. So they get to see it from some different contexts about applying the same move. And then of course, later on, like that might be from mount, but then if you're working armbar from, close guard or something later on, then some of those principles transfer. So they get to kind of see, a common theme might be that, like when we're doing from mount or close guard, like you're trying to climb behind their shoulder, like climb your hips behind their shoulder and chop behind the back, chop your legs behind before you swing over the top, like in both cases. So you start to see like a common theme behind the armbar there. So I hope that answers the question.
That does. I want to ask you a few competition things before I let you go. I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon. Sure. You teased today, the day we're recording, you teased on Instagram about potentially, your last ADCC and gearing up for that. Please don't make it your last one, because just please don't make it your last one. So we have obviously a good bit of time between now and the next ADCC. I know that you're a planner and you're a smart person. Do you have that time already mapped out where I want to compete on, this show, and then in the build up, or are you just sort of still like freewheeling it a bit before you get into camp mode?
I've kind of like I've been like skill wise preparing throughout. I haven't really been preparing for a comp just yet, as in like not trying to get myself comp ready, but just like advancing the skill sets I feel like I'm going to need for this ADCC. I want to do a few comps in the lead up to it, or maybe a couple of super fights or whatever. I feel like that's mostly just for me. I've been competing for probably 17 years now. I just need, like, when you compete, that feeling of the nerves and so on. And I find if I do a few competitions reasonably close together before a major one, then those nerves tend to be less, which I'd rather not be like, not have a really foreign feeling when I'm fighting. I'd rather it feel more natural, which I think happens when you're competing quite a bit. So I might do probably I haven't like got those exact matches or comps lined up, but probably in the last few months leading up to ADCC is when I would like to do that. I don't see, the problem is for the matches I'd like to do, it's like flying all the way to the other side of the world to fight someone for like, I want to win ADCC. That's a big reason to do that, and like doing matches to get me ready for that, which I think are important in the lead up to it. But I feel like doing that right now is just a long way to go and perhaps a big hassle with all the border issues and so on. For what it gives me, because I feel like if I compete tomorrow, it's not going to make me comp ready for ADCC in 9 months' time. So that's kind of how I'm viewing it. But I do plan on trying to start doing a bit more overseas trips and training trips, and if that aligns with the super fight or something, I might jump in. Yeah.
Well, if you want to do a super fight, I am more than happy to come help you. In no way get prepared for ADCC and just get thrashed, but take a vacation to Australia. So you just let me know. I'm more than willing to come
Yeah,
down and
come
get
down.
smoked. But
Please do.
I think, remember that part in the beginning when I said I got a 6 months old? I think that might make it a little tough to get there. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure he'd be willing to go. It would just be my wife would need the convincing. Before
Yeah.
this ADCC, is there anyone? I'm trying to think how I can phrase this question without getting too deep into what you're trying to do at ADCC. Is there anyone who's jumping out at you who maybe didn't compete at the last ADCC who's making waves that you're paying attention to?
Oh, in my division,
In your
I,
division or just overall, just as a fan slash absolute competitor?
yeah. Oh, look, I think like the young people coming up, probably the real interesting one. So you've got like, I mean, they were. I think Ty was in it last time. Ty was in the last ADCC, but he was at 66. Now he's like, and then he was just like a young, up and coming good guy, and now he's pretty like near favorite for the division in 77. I'd say Ty, and then you've got guys like Mika Galvao, I assume will be in the trial in the event. I'm not actually sure, but he would be really good to see. You got young guys like Tackett, and yeah, there's a lot of young talent coming up, which is scary because I'm getting old. I'll be 36.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, there's certain things in grappling certain parts of grappling just take a long time to develop. So the young guys are going to have like an advantage in, obviously like from like a cardio and certain, they seem to be very good like on these fast like transitions and so on. But us old guys that we've got some tricks to try to slow them down or like draw them into our world. And yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It does seem like there's more and more younger competitors every ADCC.
Yeah, it's. I think that's especially in the lighter weight divisions. I think that's probably going to be the norm. Um, yeah, I think you see that in a lot of sports, like a lot of actually, I don't know, wrestling. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to think. Like, I think wrestling's probably the closest thing to jiu-jitsu. So I'm trying to think what
Yeah.
I think as you in the heavier weight divisions, I think like strength tends to keep building up until like I think reach max strength for a lot of people in their 30s even. So you look at like those strongmen competitors. So I think the bigger weight divisions having that strength is more relevant. So I think you see in the bigger weight divisions you'll still have more older grapplers and a bit of a slower style, but these like lighter weight divisions where people are very flexible and it's all very fast and with those fast transitions being perhaps the big deciding factor. I think the young people start to see more of an advantage for the younger grapplers there. So it's very interesting. But I'm certainly I agree. I'm seeing that shift with more and more. Cole Abate, 16 wins the ADCC trials. I mean,
As a blue belt, right? He
yeah.
was still a blue belt when he won the trials, and he just got his purple belt. It's crazy.
That's where the belt thing. Unfortunately, like with this trend that we're talking about now, I actually think that's the belt thing's a big problem now because like we don't want to wait till people are 19, 20 to give them black. Like if Cole Abate if he is maybe I don't know if he is or not, but let's pretend he's the best guy in the world. He should be fighting at black belt.
I agree.
I
agree.
So I think there has to be something done. I don't know, like maybe they can keep their rules about belts, but if you win worlds, you're allowed to skip that or something.
I mean, that would make sense because he's going to go compete as a purple belt at IBJJF Worlds. I mean,
well, there's no.
Is it
it's
fair?
Isn't that going to be like demotivating for him almost? Like, does he really want to go and compete in purple belt worlds? Does that tick
right?
Does that tick the right boxes for his, for his accomplishments? I don't know.
It sort of seems like it would be lose-lose because if you don't win, you're expected to just steamroll everybody, so that's a big loss. But if you do win, all right, everyone expected you to steamroll everyone,
Yeah.
so. But
Yeah,
no offense, Cole Abate. Big
yeah.
fan, but no offense.
Maybe they do it like the I think divisions tournament, like, changing it to more like basketball and wrestling, where you're in a division based, as in like,
Sure.
based on,
Yeah.
Division 1, Division 2 seems to make more sense to me.
Or almost like a pro division,
Yeah.
even at, So I have very much enjoyed our conversation, so I hope you don't get mad when I'm going to put you on the spot before I let you go
All
and
right.
make you answer a really tough question.
Yep.
Let's just, in a pretend world where you're not competing in the absolute, just in a pretend world where you're not going to win it.
Right.
Who would you pick to win the absolute at the ADCC?
Probably depends who's going to enter. Like, I think I'll name a couple of people.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble now. Don't get yourself in trouble. Give me a few options. That way, plausible deniability.
I'm hoping Craig gets it done. And I think he's got the skill set too. Probably the only slight down, I think he'll compete at 88, which is, you can definitely hang with the bigger guys at 88, but like, it's definitely more of an advantage if you're 99 or over 99. So, but from a talent point of view, I'd like to see Craig. And then probably, I'm assuming Gordon's not going in it. That's what
That's the big question, right? Is Gordon going to be there or not?
Kanan's obviously, he's done really well mostly. So, I think there's very few people you would bet against Kanan with. And maybe Nicky Rod is just an outside chance with his wrestling and his explosiveness. That would be interesting too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think no one could fault any of the picks you just made. Like, if any of those guys won, I'd be like, yeah, that's obviously like a smart pick. Nicky Rod is just, I think, very scary looking to me. So he looks like a guy who would rip my head off. So I'm not going to say a bad word about him. But I think that, again, in this awful hypothetical where we don't have Lachlan Giles competing in the absolute, I think that's going to be like this. I think this will be a very, very fun ADCC absolute, just based off of just the people you just named.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if all of them are planning on going in open weight, but yeah, there's a lot of, maybe it's someone, maybe it's a 77 kilo division fighter.
Maybe
you can, there's, the ADCC rule set's pretty gameable. You just need to be, you need to tick the right boxes in certain areas so that you can, like, I think, as much as it's a disadvantage being small, like if you can bring different tools to the table, like the leg locks and so on, I think favor the smaller grappler against the bigger grappler. So there are some things there, but obviously you generally would rather be bigger.
Right, it's the story of my life. I wish I was a little bigger, but it just never really worked out that way.
Yeah, me too.
Lachlan, I appreciate you so much coming on. I think what I'm going to try to do is have like at least once a year you come on the show. So maybe next year's would definitely line up with whatever medal we're wearing around your neck after ADCC. We could have another chat about it. Or the next time you put out an anthology that I have to buy and add to my collection, you can come on and chat again. But thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out for a little bit tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be in touch, okay?
Awesome.
Thank you so much to Lachlan Giles for coming on the show and for allowing me to steal so much of his technique for so many years now. If you enjoyed our conversation, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next episode.